Today, we will explore the world of strings in Python. Strings are one of the most commonly used data types in Python. They represent sequences of characters and are incredibly versatile, allowing you to perform a variety of operations. Understanding how to manipulate strings is crucial for effective programming, as it enables you to format data, analyze content, and prepare information for display or storage. In this session, we will explore some of the most important functions for managing strings in Python through a practical example. Remember, if you like this video, subscribe to the channel and add a like. All right, in this first section, we're going to take a quick look at how to clean up and format strings. Imagine we've got a variable that came straight from user input, and it has a space at the beginning and another one at the end. Pretty common. The first thing we want to do is tidy that up using the strip function. To walk through this step by step, I'm using a Visual Studio Code extension that lets us pause the program as it runs. Those red dots you see are breakpoints, little markers that tell the program, stop here so we can take a look around. When execution pauses at line 3, you'll notice the variable still has those extra spaces, but as soon as we run the strip function, they disappear, leaving us with a clean, properly formatted string. Next up, we've got 3 really handy functions: capitalize, upper, and lower. I'll go ahead and type the code, and once we run it, I'll walk you through what each one does. So capitalize is great when you want the first letter to be uppercase, and everything else to be lowercase. It's perfect for things like names of people or cities, basically any situation where you want the text to look clean and properly formatted. Watch what happens to the string as soon as the function runs. You'll see it snap into the correct format right away. Now, upper and lower are even more straightforward. Upper turns the entire string into uppercase, and lower does the opposite. These are super useful when you want to normalize text or prepare it for case-insensitive comparisons. In the second part of the video, I want to show you a few really useful functions for counting and searching inside a string. The first one is fittingly called count. It can take 1 or 2 parameters, and just so you know, it is case sensitive. Let's walk through a few examples. First, I'm checking how many times the lowercase letter t appears in the string. The result gets stored in the variable c, and you can see the number right here. Now I run the same count again, but this time I start from position 5. Notice how the result changes because we're skipping the first t. Next, I switch things up and count how many uppercase T characters are in the string. Since the function is case sensitive, we get a different number. And finally, I count uppercase T again, but this time after converting the entire string to uppercase. As you'd expect, the result jumps because now every T in the string is counted. The next function we're looking at is index. This one is used to find the position of a character or a substring inside a string. You can also give it a second parameter to tell it how many characters to skip from the start. In this example, I'm searching for the letter H. Everything works perfectly as long as the function actually finds it. But if it doesn't, well, the program crashes with an exception. And dealing with exceptions isn't exactly beginner-friendly. Luckily, there's an alternative, a function called find. Let me make a quick change to the script so you can see how it works. At first glance, find looks identical to index, but there's one important difference. If the substring isn't found, instead of throwing an exception, it simply returns -1. That means we can just check whether our variable c equals -1, which is a much easier and safer way to handle missing characters. Where there's find, there's a replace. The function takes 2 parameters, the substring to search for and the substring to replace with. Pretty straightforward, as in this example. Look at the value of the variable text after the call to replace. The last function in this part of the video is one we use to break a string into smaller pieces. It's called split. In its simplest form, you just give it a delimiter, like a space, and Python returns a list of slices based on that delimiter. It's a really quick way to turn a sentence into individual words. But split can do a bit more. If you already know how many pieces you want, you can pass a second parameter. In this example, I'm using the number 2, which basically means split the string twice and whatever is left over, put it all in the last variable. It's a neat trick when you want the first few parts separated cleanly, without losing the rest of the text. There are plenty of situations where you need to check whether some data is valid before you actually use it. A classic example is making sure a string really contains a number before you try converting it into an integer. So, in this last part of the video, I want to show you some of the most commonly used validation functions for strings. Each of these functions returns either true or false, depending on whether the check succeeds. The first one is isolnum. This function checks whether every character in the string is either a letter or a number. In other words, it confirms that there are no special characters hiding in there. It's a simple check, but incredibly useful when you want to make sure your input is clean and predictable. In the example, I check first the original string, obtaining a false because of the space character. The next line checks the same string after I remove the spaces using the function replace that we saw previously. The next two functions work in a very similar way. Let me type the code so you can see them in action. The first one is isalpha. This checks whether every character in the string is a letter. In our case, that's clearly not true, so the result comes back as false. Right after that, we have isNumeric, which checks whether all the characters are digits. And again, for this string, the answer is also false. For this last example, I need to split the original text into 2 parts first. Now that I've done that, if I check whether the second part is numeric, the result comes back as true. And the same goes for the first part when I check if it's alphabetic. That one returns true as well. The final 2 functions I want to show you are the ones that check whether a string is entirely uppercase or entirely lowercase. They're simple, but really handy when you need to validate the formatting of your text. Did you like the video? Want to see more and get notified when new content is published? Subscribe to my channel and add a like. If you want to go deeper into Python coding, have a look at ShedCoder's website and join one of the coaching sessions. Thanks for watching. Bye!